When I was at Wichita State trying to play baseball, my head coach, Gene Stevenson, who's in attendance tonight, pulled me aside one day and said, "Bruce, as a baseball player, you might make a pretty good broadcaster." It's pretty remarkable that Gene and I still speak to one another. But I turned my sights towards broadcasting, and I didn't have far to look around Wichita State. The names that have graced the airwaves at Wichita State are legend: Rick Weaver, Gus Grevey, Ken Softly, our own Mike Kennedy, who continues as the voice of the Shockers, and then tonight's first inductee, a guy who was and is still held in such high esteem on the campus that he once graced, and indeed on the airwaves that he has dominated around the world. Gary Bender grew up near Ulysses, Kansas, where he started broadcasting games on the back of a tractor, and wouldn't you love to have the tapes of those early broadcasts? He knew what he was doing as an athlete. He was an all-state football player at Ulysses High School, went on to become the radio voice for the University of Kansas, then matriculated to the University of Wisconsin, was the voice of the Green Bay Packers for 5 years, began his network career in 1975 with CBS. During his network career, he's broadcast games for the National Football League, the National Basketball Association, Major League Baseball, college football, and college basketball, for which he won an Emmy for his work on 3 Final Fours. He was a part of the ABC broadcasting team at the 1988 Winter Olympics. Gary has also been the voice of the Chicago Bears and the St. Louis Rams, and is currently the play-by-play voice for the Phoenix Suns. My goodness, I am not worthy. It is very humbling and indeed exciting for me to introduce tonight's first inductee into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Bender.
I'm 102 years old. You hear some of that, it makes me wonder, but wow. Who'd ever think this would happen to me? I'm really humbled. I come here tonight very grateful. And I guess in looking back at my life, I think I always wanted to be a sportscaster. I grew up in a coach's family. Many of the coaches here knew my dad very well, who's in the Kansas State High School Activities Association Coaches Hall of Fame. My dad had been coaching at Dodge City Junior College. I was the mascot on the team, the water boy. And all of a sudden, my dad decided to get out of coaching and went to a farm. He took over his father-in-law's farm in the middle of nowhere. We were 40 miles from any town. You know, it was a pretty simple existence. There was no gangs and no drugs and no drive-by shootings. Shoot, we never saw anybody drive by. But this started in the 7th grade, and I had a very interesting existence. I'd get up in the morning, I'd milk 2 cows, I would gas up the tractor, eat breakfast, plow to lunch, take my sack lunch out, eat it, gas up the tractor, plow to sundown, milk those same 2 cows and go to bed after I ate supper. Wasn't a lot of fun. And so I decided the only way I could survive was I'd start making up ball games. So one day I'd act like I was in the Los Angeles Coliseum. The next day I was in Yankee Stadium. I would sing the national anthem. I saw this a cappella performance today. I was a cappella, but not near as good. And I would do all the commercials. You remember the Gillette commercials? Look sharp and to be sharp too. I had them all down. And I would do this day after day, hour after hour on this tractor. And it had such impact on my subconscious that years later, when I did a game, I thought I'd done one before. So it's so interesting in that meager existence that I was able to do what I did. I worked with a guy by the name of Bob Costas in St. Louis one time, and we were talking, and Bob is the smartest guy I've ever been around in my life. I paled by comparison. And he said to me, he said, "Now tell me again, where did you come from?" And I'd say, "Ulysses, Kansas." And he'd say, "Man, I don't know how in the world you ever got in this business." But I think that prepared me in a special way. And 30 plus years later, I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was getting ready to do the championship game between North Carolina State and Houston. Remember Phi Slamma Jamma? And there was a center by the name of Hakeem Olajuwon who had created quite a sensation. He'd come from Nigeria. He had impacted the college game and had made them almost unbeatable. And it's always intimidating to interview a 7-foot center. Dave Rovich was always tough. I had to hold the mic up all the time when I was in Kansas to try to get close enough to talk to him. And I was sitting courtside with him one time, and I was just trying to get some information before I went on the air. And I said, Hakeem, I said, I understand you were quite a soccer goalie. Can you imagine? I mean, there'd be no mouth to the goal with Hakeem Olajuwon protecting the goal. I said, I understand you're a pretty good tennis player. Try to loft the ball over him. And I said, but is there any one sport, Hakeem, that you didn't do well? And he said, yeah. I said, what's that? And he said, well, I can't swim. And I said, well, really? I can't swim either. And he looked at me and he grinned from ear to ear and he said, yeah, but I can wade out a lot further than you can. That same time at North Carolina State, after the shot heard around the world, Lorenzo Charles hit the basket, I went down to the locker room to visit with Coach Jim Valvano. And I went down there and he'd been thrown in the shower. His tie was askew. He had a cigar in his mouth. And I went down and I said, Coach, what a moment. I said, I'm just proud to have been part of this. He said, pretty good, wasn't it? I said, well, this is amazing. He said, you know, God must love ordinary people. I said, well, what are you talking about, John? He said, well, God must love ordinary people because he made so many of them. But he said, Gary, God made a lot of ordinary people, but he also allowed those ordinary people to experience extraordinary things. And that's who I am. I'm an ordinary person who's experienced extraordinary things. I've been blessed working with the best in the business. I've had some great moments. I'm a grinder. I'm not very exciting. I'm not very colorful. I'm not very quotable. I used to have the reputation, I just didn't screw it up. I didn't mess up the producers and the directors. They knew I was going to take them to the right place. And you become a survivor. You really do. You become a person who tries as best you can to do what you have with what you've got. And I must tell you tonight, as I take this honor home with me and so much humility and yet so much pride that you guys would vote me into this, I still have a big challenge in my life. And that challenge is to just one time be able to broadcast a game the way I want to do it. I never broadcast a game the way I want to. Someday, maybe the next couple of years, as I close out my career, I will take that headset off, I'll put it down on the desk, and I'll say, you nailed it. But until I do, I'm still working to do that. I want to thank Ted for his outstanding group and what they have done for me. They make me so much at home. I want to thank my brother Kelly, who nominated me for this award. My bride, Linda, 45 years we've been together, and she's put up with a lot. And my two sons, Trey and Brett. I could thank many more, many of you who've had such impact in my life. But thank you. I received this award, and I am just very pleased that you thought enough of me to bring me here tonight. Thank you, and God bless you all.